Welcome, dog moms and dads, to our show where we discuss the everyday joys and challenges of pet parenting. I'm your host, Jen.
And I'm Ashley.
And this is the Dog Mom Podcast presented by ZippyPaws.
How come we repeat that every time we record? I feel like we should become more efficient and just record the best one and just add it in, right?
That's true. Maybe we should think about doing that. I guess this is why we're kind of, we're on this tier of podcasters.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm really just stalling. I've been trying to think of how to intro this podcast. Probably since what we're going to talk about happened, I feel like, but the podcast that we've been dreading, I'm going to try to set you up for success, but I think I'm just going to kind of let you say what you need to say. So for all of our listeners, Jen lost her golden retriever, Birdie, at the end of last year, the middle to end of last year, I would say in the fall, to kidney disease. And again, I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'll let you share the story. I think it's a poignant story, and as with everything with Birdie, there are, lots of fun points, and I'm sure we'll smile as we remember her. But so we'll definitely be a little bit of a sadder podcast today. I will say, if we're adding a trigger warning for anybody, if you're having a bad day, maybe come back to this one, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you want a good cry, I mean, we're here for you. So, I guess to tell Birdie's story, I feel like we should go back to the beginning of when we decided to bring Birdie home. And just kind of tell her whole story and go from there, I guess. So I think I may have told the story before, but we got Birdie from a breeder local in Hemet, California, because we were doing a brand video and we wanted puppies. So my videographer reached out to a couple of local breeders for us to get access to puppies, and we had success with one litter, and as we went to the breeder's home to film the video, I fell in love with all of her puppies, and I'm a huge golden retriever fan, so I mean, maybe I did the video so I could get a puppy. I don't know.
I was going to say, I didn't want to say that, but we did a video, so I had to get a puppy.
Yeah, I mean, we were there, and they got attached to me, so what could I have done? I mean, could I just say no?
Yeah, no one says no to golden retriever puppies.
Yeah, they're the cutest. Yeah, so when I was there, I didn't actually get a puppy from the litter that we did the videos on. So I asked for another litter. She's half English cream and half American, and she had the cutest curls on her back. And at one point when we were shooting the video, there were 3 9-week-old puppies in my house. So, I mean, that was chaos. And I remember that. Actually, that really prepared me for having the boys.
For having kids.
Yeah. It was crazy. Everybody needed to pee every 3, hour and a half. So that was fun. That was a fun 48 hours. And so that was so she was born January 22nd of 2019. And the first time that we noticed that something was wrong was the day that my then fiance, now husband, went on his bachelor's party. So he had, a bunch of his friends over, and then they left that day to go on a cruise. And I went with the boys to grab lunch, and that was the first time that we kind of like left her alone in her crate since she came home maybe like 3 months prior. So it was kind of like the first test where we left her at home by herself for, 2-3 hours. And, we've been working with her on her crate training, which was really, really difficult because she always wanted to be by us. So I'm like, this is a big test, you're doing great. You've proven to us like you can stay in it for an hour and a half at a time. This is the big test. And so we went to brunch and they left for their trip, and I came home alone, and I entered the door and I was like, there's something immediately wrong, because her crate, and she had a big crate, for a full size golden retriever, and it was completely soaked. Like, how crates have like the little crate pan, like
Yeah.
the drool was overflowing that pan onto like the wood floors. So of course I immediately panicked and took her to the emergency vet. It was a holiday, remember, July 4th. So not that many vets were on staff. Waited for a long, long time. And they didn't really tell me anything. They just said, oh, maybe she got into something toxic, and maybe she ate some. Yeah, I feel like the first question they asked me was, did she get into any chocolates? And I was like, no. And they said, what about cocaine or meth? And I'm like, okay,
You have those lying around the house, clearly.
clearly. So that was just like, it threw me off. And I said, no, we don't really have that easily accessible in our house. It could have been plants, toxic plants, or toxic flowers, or something like that. And I said, I don't know. She was in her crate for maybe 3 hours or so, and I don't think that she ate anything prior to that either. So we just had no answers. I think we came home with some medication just to help her feel better, and that was that. That was when she was maybe 5 months, 5 or 6 months. So that was like our first kind of like dipping our toes into kind of like the whole situation. We had no answers. We didn't know what was going wrong. So we thought maybe she ate something on her walk, like that morning or something like that, and had a little toxic reaction. So everything was fine. She was like super healthy until next year. So on the day of my birthday, in May 2020, and this was just like 2 months after the pandemic started, we didn't go out at all. And then, so we decided to go out for dinner for the first time since the pandemic started. And, we made a reservation somewhere, safe, and we wore a mask, and we were like, okay, Birdie, like, stay home, and, we'll be back. So we went to dinner, came back, had a great time, and she seemed really weird. She just seemed like she needed extra attention from us, which is like, that's almost impossible because she always wanted attention. And for her to want extra attention, that was like, you could you could imagine how needy she was. And my husband and I were thinking, like, should we bring her into the vet, or like, what should we do with her, right? It was like 10, 11 p.m. And, I was like, okay, maybe we just go to bed and see how she is in the morning, and, that I'm the more like, okay, let's wait kind of person.
I was going to say that I'm the one that's like, just take her.
Yeah, you're the person who's like already on the way to the vet. And I'm like, I think they're okay. They like threw up 3 times, but like, they're not throwing up right now, so I think they're fine. So I was kind of like, okay, let's just wait. And, like at some point in the night, maybe like 11:30 or so, Nick was like, okay, I'm calling it. Like, we're taking her. So we took her to the emergency vet. And as soon as we got there, she started shaking, and she wouldn't stop. So, like my old dog JJ also had seizures. So it was kind of reminiscent of that, where they just can't stop shaking. So at the vet, they took her overnight and they ran, x-rays, ultrasounds, and to see what was going on. And after the ultrasound came back the next day, and the blood test and everything in there, and they told us that she was in stage 4 renal failure, which for her case, it is congenital, meaning that she was either born with it, or she had some episode or something happen when she was still a puppy, so that her left kidney could not develop. So her left kidney was the size of, I don't know, ironic, a kidney bean, and her right one was enlarged, or was it the other way around? One of them. One of them is super small, and one of them was enlarged because it was working overtime to filter out all the toxins. So she stayed at the vet for 4 days on fluids and for monitoring, and the prognosis wasn't good, and the vet told us that we should make preparations for end stage care. And I don't know, it's just like we just couldn't not accept that for some reason. I feel like she was like a year and a half, not even a year and a half old, and prior to this she was super healthy, nothing like visibly wrong with her. So it was just such a shock to us, and we were not prepared to do that. And then even when we went to go visit her at the hospital, she was like super energetic, and you know how she is, like just acting like nothing's wrong. And we brought her favorite like sick toy, which is like the latex tequila. Like of course she would like the tequila out of like all the other bottles. So she would squeak it if she was like not feeling well. So yeah, and so when we came home, Nick was like, he just like really dove into caring for her and looking for internal medicine specialists. I think we made appointments with like 6 of the best IMSs all over LA, and it was crazy. They had like 8-month waiting lists. It was like middle of the pandemic, and it was crazy. So after shopping around for a couple of IMSs, we found one that we worked with for almost 2 years, a year and a half on Birdie, and we completely changed her diet. So we cooked for her, and she needed fluids, subcutaneous fluids. So we would use a needle, poke it under her skin, and give her fluids 2 to 3 times a week. At the end, it was every day. So it was just like a lot of care. She can't have. I feel like I've like already tried to put this out of my mind about like what she could have and couldn't have, and all that stuff. So it was a huge list, and we also had to make sure like we couldn't have foods that it was hard for her kidneys to process and all that stuff. So it was a lot, and my husband really, really like took it upon himself to work really hard on keeping her alive. So after that, she lived, I think, almost 16 months. So she passed September 14th of 2022. So about 16 months after her diagnosis. And I don't know. Should we talk about what happened at the end? It was just,
I mean, it's ultimately what you feel comfortable with, right? I would say,
yeah.
share as much as you want. It's a personal experience. I wasn't physically there with you. I feel like I maybe mentally was there a little bit. And I know it wasn't easy for you. It had to have been
Yeah.
terrible for you. It wasn't easy for me, but I mean, you can share as much or as little as you want. I don't think our listeners care.
Yeah.
And
I'm just trying to think of like everything that happened. I think it was middle of August when she had like another episode, kind of like what happened in 2020 where she was like shaking. So we took her to the emergency vet again. And oh, you know what? I think we took her to her IMS. So I drove her to Glendora. I got a last minute appointment with her because I told her that Birdie wasn't doing well. So she told me to come in, and that day I was the only person available. Usually my husband does all the pet vet appointments and everything. So that day I had to take her, and I haven't really taken her to a vet appointment in a while, so I didn't really know what to expect. And so I brought her in. I waited around for her, and they took her vitals. They took her blood, and the whole works. And basically, like her prior to this, her care was like maybe every 6 weeks or so she would go in to see her vet and do all this, and just to monitor her creatinine and BUN levels and make sure that like she's on track. Like if we're it's elevated, we take more medicine and all that stuff. So like she went in, and it was getting progressively worse for maybe like 2 months prior to this. So we knew like we were worried about what was going on. And then I took her in that day, and her numbers were like off the charts. But like that didn't really even it just didn't register with me, just because like her numbers have been off the charts for like months. So yeah. it wasn't like super alarming to me, right? Because she's lived with numbers off the charts for over a year, so it wasn't like super alarming to me. But when I went to go pick her up, and the doctor called me, she said, basically you have to prepare for end stage. And I don't know, it was crazy, because usually my husband shields me from a lot of like the bad news, and he kind of like does most of the care himself. So, that was like the day that it hit me that she's not going to make it too much longer. But like I look at her and I'm like, I refuse to believe that this dog is going to pass away. Like I can't. Like if you know her, like that she's super bubbly, and she doesn't like look like she's in pain. So, I went home and I talked to my husband, obviously, and then we just ramped up, her care. We made sure she was eating like homemade food, and, she got all her medication, and we upped her fluids based on, the doctor's advice and everything. And I think it was a few weeks, 2 weeks after that, she lived like really well for 2 weeks. We brought her like her little kiddie pool so she could, go swimming. So she had fun, and she wasn't in pain or anything. And I think 2 weeks after that was when she had another episode, and we brought her into, at that time it was like we could not get into any emergency vet. Like everywhere was like, oh, we'll just send you a list of other emergency vets in the area. I'm like, we've called all of them.
Yeah.
They don't have space for us, or it's like an 8-hour wait or something, and it was crazy. And I'm sure you've had experience too with like the emergency vets. Like they just are not taking anybody.
They're always busy. And it's frustrating, because it's probably with people like me who take their dogs to the vet for absolutely everything. I don't take them to the emergency vet for everything, but it's just like a human emergency room system where If
Yeah.
you have a cold, you probably shouldn't be at the emergency room. Just like if your dog, has a non-life-threatening emergency, especially that you can see, because sometimes emergencies we don't know about. But if your dog has a non-life-threatening emergency, take them to your regular vet. Pay the extra, get that urgent care appointment. There are tiers, right? So then when you've got
Yeah.
you've got dogs like Bird who needed to get in, you've got this runaround. It's like
Yeah.
that's a pet peeve. That's a pet peeve of mine. I'm gonna refrain because I'm gonna go down a long rabbit hole.
I know. I'm like, I could go down that rabbit hole too. Because, to be fair, a lot of regular vets, their waiting period is long as well. So if your dog was like having some issues, like, Pepper just had worms, we'll put a pin on Pepper. We'll come back to Pepper. Let's finish this story. So we were trying to find emergency vet for Birdie, and everywhere was like so full, and we finally got one that we like know all of like the emergency vets so well in the area. It's insane how much like you're just thrown into that world. But she went there and she stayed a few days, and so they kind of released her to us after a few days in the hospital and said, you need to make an appointment for in-home euthanization. And I was like, we just did not want to. I mean, it sounds really selfish, but I feel like she was still not at the end. You know what I mean? Like, she wasn't like telling us that like it was the end for her. But I mean, like, looking at her numbers, like, I'm sure the vets were like, this is unsustainable. So we kind of gave her, I mean, the details are really, really fuzzy to me right now. But we kept her at home for a few more days, and then we brought her back. And the vets there were, I don't know if like I should even talk about this.
I was gonna say you can talk about it, but we might need to cut it.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know. We'll see, but I mean, like they were like upset at us that we didn't make an appointment to put her down.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can see it from the vet's point of view, but also from like the dog parents kind of point of view. Like, it just like, how people are like at the end, they say, oh, you'll know at the end when it's the end.
Yeah.
And we're like very in tune, especially Nick is like very in tune with like our kids, our pets, like he knows what they're feeling and he can sense when things are wrong. And he always told me that like, it's not her time. And she wasn't acting like she was, in pain or anything. So then we told them that we made an appointment. So we were able to bring her home, and we actually made the appointment for the day after. And she had a last 24 hours with us, and we got an in-home appointment so she could be at home surrounded by like us and like the boys. We did it upstairs, and we had Kramer with us too, so Kramer could like see and like know what was going on. And that was September 14th of 2022. So it's been almost 6 months without Birdie. So
it's crazy that it's been that long. It feels like it was yesterday.
Yeah, for me, I think it feels like it was a long time ago, because I feel like, like a lot of time has passed between like what happened and now. So like for me,
a lot going on.
Yeah, it feels like a long time ago, but also it feels like yesterday when she was like right here, So it's just the two sides of the same coin, like so many feelings and a lot of things happened in my life between then. Like I moved, so it was like 2 weeks after Birdie passed, I moved houses. So of course we had to like pack up and do all that stuff. And like, I think it kind of helped me like process it, because I feel like going back to the house where like Birdie was, grew up in, and everything, it would just be like too difficult to like not see her when I feel like moving kind of helped me process it, because I would have been like seeing, oh, that's where Birdie used to like to sleep, and like, if I wake up, then I can see Birdie come around the corner, and like things like that. That would like make me miss her. And moving, it kind of like helped me stay super super busy. And it's a whole new house. She hasn't been here, so I mean, I don't see her at every corner.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
Your brain isn't incorporating memories of her because it doesn't have that visual. That's not
Yeah,
like a science.
it's
That's
just
not
the
a
visual.
scientific explanation, but that's what I would imagine.
Yeah. So, I mean, it helps, but also it was like super difficult at the same time. I mean, went back to the house a few times, of course, and it's just like, oh, that's like Birdie's favorite. Like, she loved to like run around here. She liked to like sun, and all that stuff. So it's just kind of difficult to go back to the house, but
That's how I felt with Stella too.
yeah.
When going back home after we said goodbye to Stella was just the worst. And we talked about it in Stella's episode so long ago, but my family went home and cleared her stuff out. Didn't get rid of it, but cleared it out, because I knew, like, I go, if I'm going to have to look at these things, I'm not going to be able to function. So yeah. So I think I can see why moving would be a good distraction. But I feel like, do you feel like it's tricked you into, I don't want to say not grieving, but do you feel like it changed your grieving process?
I mean, it's definitely, I mean, I didn't really have a choice that this happened, in this order. I think it was like for the better, I think, looking back, but it's definitely changed the process, because, like, also maybe like the whole thing of having kids now, and just, my focus is on them, and like, it's just, I have so much going on that like I couldn't really like think about it too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we kind of grieved like after we moved, really, because we were just kind of like in the state of like survival, which is what I do constantly every day, is just surviving and making it to the end of the day, and prepping for the next day. It's like literally just survival.
Stop it. She's joking. She's joking about
It's true.
every day being a survival. It's not true.
It's true. It's like, if you see my boys throwing tantrums every day, you're like, okay, I just need to get through this. I just need to get through lunchtime. I just need to get through nap time. I just need to get through like dinner time. And
That's called being a mom. That's not like a send help, I can't get through the day type of situation.
Okay, yeah, I don't need help. I'm just surviving.
People are sending wellness checks to your house.
They're like, are you okay?
Okay.
It's like the survival show, and instead of being out in the wilderness and have the elements, it's like, my boys. Just send them to my house.
I think they're angels.
I'm like, here, try.
I have never seen them misbehave.
Yeah, I'm like, try to get them to eat their veggies at dinner time, and see if you come out on top.
Oh my gosh.
I was just gonna say, like, this is something that we can discuss. Like, you've lost a dog that had a medical issue as well, and so like for us, we kind of knew like the time was going to come, right? How does that compare to losing a dog to old age, which I have done too?
Yeah.
but a while, it's been a few years. And like, like, and he was 13, so lived a long and pretty long and good life. And
Yeah.
whereas like Birdie was like 3.5, and you kind of
Yeah.
like, it's like a different grieving process, I think.
It just seems unfair.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how I felt with Stella, and Stella barely made it to 7. And then obviously the last year-ish of her life, year or so, was spent, having her cancer treatment. She didn't necessarily, hers wasn't, I don't think, as, I don't want to say cumbersome, but maybe as involved. I guess it was towards the end. It was just as involved, but it didn't, just like Birdie's, it didn't really change her quality of life. I just felt like she was such a vibrant dog, and she was so good with so many people. She did hospital visits, and it just felt unfair. And I feel like, and I haven't experienced losing a dog to old age. I don't even like thinking about it. I've got 3 within ear or eyesight as we speak, but yeah, even dogs passing of old age seems unfair. I think that's and this is what you and I talked about. That's the unfortunate thing, is that dogs just don't live as long as we do.
Yeah. And they live so short. So it's like, you're going to have the, I guess, privilege and unfortunateness of having many dogs in your lifetime. And, it's just unfair. Like, I think about it in terms of like, like Birdie for sure was robbed of at least 10 years of her life. She could have easily lived to 12 or 13, and she had a great quality life up until the very, very end.
Yeah, she absolutely did.
Yeah, and it just seems like super unfair that she doesn't get to enjoy like 10 more years of that. And like, that's the hardest part, I think, is like, she's so young, and she like, just because of circumstances, like, why did she get that? And I am also close to one of the moms of another dog in her litter, her brother. So I mean, I don't hold any like bad feelings toward her or her brother, but it's like, how come he is thriving and living and my dog can't? I mean, of course, it's like nothing like we can do about it. It was just like, we picked her, but it just seems like unfair. Like, the universe is unfair, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just
I was gonna say, yeah, like, it doesn't have to be animosity towards her litter, or whoever chose her in that litter, but I think it's completely just, and I think it's fair to say that it's unfair, and that you watch a dog that looks just like Birdie, came from the same parents as Birdie, thrive and live that long life. I think anyone listening to this podcast would be lying to themselves if they said they felt differently, and that's okay. I obviously, there's a balance between it, but I think it's important to talk about, like, yeah, it's just freaking unfair. There's the bottom line is that it's just it's not fair.
And I love seeing like pictures of him. Like, he's so cute, and he looks exactly like Birdie, just bigger, and like, they have the exact same like facial features, and like their videos, like, it's just like so similar.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, it is unfair. And like, in terms of like, why do dogs have to suffer? And and when we were researching about like care for dogs with kidney disease, it's like, we as humans, we have dialysis, and that prolongs the life of a lot of patients who do have kidney disease. And why don't we have that for dogs? And we see some medical journals that say that they are working on those with dogs, but it's still a ways out, and it's not super cost effective to do something like that. And hopefully in the coming years they'll find something that's that will help,
Yeah.
parents with dogs that have renal disease. It's just wish there were more to help, I guess.
Yeah. And everything is a learning process that has come from many unfair situations prior. That's kind of how I think of Stella and the clinical trials that she did for a drug that's now widely available for canine lymphoma. And I feel the same way. I look at dogs that are able to get it, and I'm so happy. And it's not a personal animosity, but on the flip side of that, it's just like, well, sorry, Grant, you're gonna have to edit that one out. But it's just why did I have a dog that was in this specific time frame, where if she had just made it to 1 or 2 years later, it would have been a totally different situation. And it's kind of like one of those what the F moments where it's like, God.
Yeah.
But I still want to hear.
But you never know, right? So like you can think what if, and like it's unfair, but ultimately it's like the cards that we were dealt with. So I mean,
which still suck. But for the years that you had her, Birdie was a pretty incredible dog. I see things that make me think of her all the time still. It's usually when I'm looking at Bjorn, because I think of them as puppies, which is one of my favorite memories. And I'm already getting emotional. So apparently I'm not the person to to be doing this or be suggesting it. But Bjorn still will not play with another dog the way that he played with Birdie to this day. So for those of you who don't know, they grew up together. So Birdie was maybe 2 months behind Bjorn, and they would come. This was back before we were working from home, and they would go into the office together. And oh my God, it was like an Oreo tornado, because Bjorn was so dark and Birdie was so bright white, and they would go nuts. In the cutest way. Like, they were never aggressive. They were never mean to each other, but they would just gnaw at each other's faces to the point where you and I would just look at them like, is this even enjoyable for you?
Yeah, I'm like, are you actually having fun? Or like, what is going on? Are you hurting each other? Like, if you're hurt, like, tap out and I'll like just say something and then we'll come and save like either of you. But yeah, they were so cute together.
They would go nuts. And yeah, like Birdie was one of my favorites of all time. I think I spoiled her too much, but
yeah. Okay, well,
sorry, I wasn't like of all the things.
Yeah, I mean, like, she was just so funny. Like, there's just so many things. I can't even think of like one specific thing, but she liked to like sleep on my pillow. Like I sleep with 2 pillows, and she would like sleep on the one like up top. It was her roost, because we make a lot of like bird related jokes, because her name is just so funny. We called her Bird Turd when she was little, because she was just such turd. Didn't listen to anything when she was like really young. But she will like sleep up here in her roost, and her favorite toy was a rock that we called the egg. So she loves the rock. Her mom owns a company that does dog toys. But I mean she still loved dog toys. She loved our toys, and she loved the minis. Especially like the cookie, the aliens, all the legs were chewed off, but I mean, it's just like a stump. But she loved that, and she loved, we had like a Santa cheeky chum, and then like the Santa had like little feet, like with boots, like black boot, and she chewed off the Santa boot, and then that boot, which was like, I don't know, half an inch, was like her toy for so long. And so other than that, her favorite toy was a rock that she babied for years, which was like, I'm like, I don't, why?
Why?
Like, why? And she would sploot, and it was like the cutest. So we had a bed, and then we had like a dog bed in front of it. So sometimes she would play with her toy. She would sploot, and she'll like slowly go over the top of the bed onto her little bed, and then her like back legs would just be fully splooted, and you just see like it slowly disappearing down her bed. Oh my gosh.
I missed the chomping too.
The chomping, she had a soft bite, for sure. Something that I miss very much, soft bite. And I think like the biggest, memory that I have with her was when it was like October of 2020 when we took Kramer and Birdie on a cross country, road trip in an RV to visit my in-laws' family in Wisconsin. And we drove through like so many cool places. We went to like the Badlands, we went to Monument Valley, we went to like Bryce Canyon and, Yellowstone. All these like cool places that a lot of people don't even get to visit. And she visited all those like amazing landmarks, and we like boondocked half the time. So we were like super off the grid. We would wake up and it was like incredible views, and like, that was a fun time because we didn't know she was sick then. So we kind of like lived to the fullest, I guess. We weren't like, like being careful or anything. We were just like, let's just do it, let's just go crazy. And that was really fun. And I remember like we were going through like this road in Idaho, and we were like going down these mountain roads, and it was pretty steep. And then Birdie would she would like get on our lap because she was scared. So we had to hold her through like 30 miles of going like 10 miles an hour down those like steep roads. So good memories.
She had a good life. Until she was sick, and even throughout being sick, she was loved and cared for, and I truly believe that she crossed the Rainbow Bridge knowing how loved she was.
For sure, yeah. I mean, okay, another grievance that I have is with the in-home vet visit at the end. I'm like, okay, there's like much to be desired in this industry as well.
Really?
Yeah, it was kind of, you don't really think about it, but finding somebody to like do that at the end, it's already like a horrific process, and you have to like make these preparations, but like, and then somebody coming and, chit-chatting with you about the weather and stuff. I'm like, I'm just like, oh my God, shut up. Like, don't even say anything. Like, you can see, like, we're
grieving,
super upset about it. Grieving and, like, preparing. Like, we don't want this to happen. And then you're like, I don't know.
Oh my God,
I guess they're
terrible.
just trying to lighten the mood and, like, say all these, like, things. I don't know. I'm just like, just come and do your job and just get the hell out.
Yeah. That makes me so sad because I know I spoke to this, like I felt like Stella's wasn't obviously at home, but we were very lucky in the oncologist and vet team that we had with her, and we took her to the same place, but it's seemingly very different than what you went through. It was horrific and emotional, but it was also very comforting in a way, at least for what Stella had gone through, and the people that were we were surrounded by had such humanity, such compassion, and it makes a difference. So, I mean, I don't want to make a learning experience out of that, but for people listening, that is a learning experience, right? Like,
yeah,
vet those people before it have an idea, right? They always say to have a plan, and nobody wants to. And I think in your situation, there wasn't time for that. But the fact that you have to do that is infuriating.
Yeah, and like I get it, I just wish they had like more, like better bedside manner than that,
I
you know.
don't
And then,
get it. You don't have to get it. You don't have to make excuses for them. The guy sucked.
well, it was a lady, but yeah.
The girl
And the whole
sucked.
process was, so she came in with her assistant to do it, and then we had to wait for somebody else from the crematorium. I'm not sure how to the
Yeah.
he's from, and he came to pick up her body, and it wasn't like too long of a wait, but I didn't know that was the process. And
Yeah.
maybe there are some people who do it and they pick up, like they'll transport her, but
Yeah.
for our instance it was somebody else. So somebody else came and waited for like everything to be ready, and then he took her to get cremated. And okay, another bad experience of like people are like, what is going on? But like the guy came and was like making a chit chat with us when my husband went to go get his wallet inside the house, because he was like, oh, I'll just take payment right here. So of course he went to go get his wallet, and then he was like, and this is like something that's infuriating. You're gonna get super mad. But he was like, oh, so where are you from? And I was like, oh no, not this question, and not while like my beloved
Like-
dog is like
like-
laying in a bag in your trunk. Like,
Like
I'm not
what part
doing
of
this.
LA are you? What part of LA are you from?
You know what they want to know. It's like they're like, oh, where are you from? I'm like, hey, so I grew up in LA, so you know.
But where are you
local.
from?
He's like, oh, so like, where are your parents from? And I'm like,
He
okay,
did not. He
Yes,
did.
he did.
Did you leave?
He
Did you
did.
leave a Yelp review for this person?
no, like Nick found him, so, or like he came with like the vet that did the euthanasia. Yeah, so he was like, she brought him basically, so we weren't.
I'm really glad at this point that people don't watch the YouTube versions of these, because I am so mad. I can't even hide the RBF that is happening in the
Yeah.
viewfinder right now. What
It was
in the
it was
hell?
rough. Yeah, and I didn't even tell Nick. I was like, you know, when he came out and he he did that, and I was like, did you hear what he said? And he's like, oh, I heard, because the window was open, so he heard like the exchange. But like, I mean, obviously we were like bawling at that point, like, so it's like,
Yeah.
we didn't really want to get into it.
Like,
But I'm
have-
like, not now, mister, like, not right now. Like, I just don't understand why people
Like, just show
need to do that.
Show some compassion. I think that, yeah, the decorum, and I'd be interested to hear. Obviously, nobody wants to relive these experiences, but to hear from you guys listening, if that's something that happens frequently. I've gone through it once, and again, now I just feel very, very lucky. But is that something that happens? Do we need to start looking into euthanasia reform? Because that, you always hear the horror stories of the people who aren't brave enough, you know, to walk that final path with their dogs, and who can't do it,
Yeah.
and how they shouldn't be alone. And obviously 100% should be the case. But
Yeah.
on the flip side is, for the people who are with their babies until the end, don't make small talk. I don't want to talk about the weather. I don't want to talk about
yeah.
whatever stupid questions you have to ask me. Like,
I'm like, I want to get into this whole exchange about, like, you know, being respectful of people, and like being an Asian American woman, you know, living in America. Like, I don't want to get into that while my dog just passed away.
or
And,
ever.
like, yes, ever, but especially not right now. And, you know, I have like the answers that I usually give, and, you know, at the point I was like, I can't even remember exactly what I even said, but, you know, probably said something like so he doesn't keep going. But I mean, that was our experience. So I I mean, I'm happy that we were there for Birdie at her final moments because Nick held her like in his arms and told her she was okay. So I mean,
Yeah.
she was well taken care of until the end. So crazy stories. I'm like,
I'm so annoyed now. Like I have to read this ending bit, and now I'm just mad, and it's gonna sound mad. Yeah. To Miss Bird, who's probably running around somewhere, wherever they go, chomping on rocks.
Yeah, chomping on rocks. She like cracked a tooth too on a rock. And we had to get her whole tooth fixed. Like she had a chrome tooth, which was really cool. So
Terminator Bird.
she is, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing your story. There are happy outcomes in your life since that we'll talk about next time. And
I don't know if I would call them happy, but they are what they are.
they're happy. They're happy, and I think that'll be a good story about what happens after you lose one of your heart dogs, right?
Yeah.
And you can share your experience, and I can share mine kind of as it relates to, I mean, we've talked about Bjorn after Stella, but we'll have good conversations.
Yeah,
Until then, I'm still mad, so just bear with me. If you want to boop that follow button, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Dog Mom Podcast, and our website at www.zippypaws.com/Dog Mom Podcast. And if you are an at-home euthanasia person who works in the area and are listening to this and had anything to do with this, so help me. You can find me on my personal Instagram, and we'll handle that. We'll handle that privately. Or, you want to DM me. You want to DM me and have lunch and explain to me why you thought it was necessary to talk about the weather, or why the person who picked up poor Bird felt necessary to talk about people's ethnicities. We can have that conversation too. I digress. Dog Mom Podcast on all socials and zippypaws.com. And we'll talk to you guys next time.
Bye.